Welcome into episode 168 of SEC Smothered and Covered here on V-Sporto. My name's Barrett Sallee. Appreciate you checking out the show. If you're new to the show, do not forget to download, subscribe, share, and review the show on iTunes. Also follow me on Twitter and Facebook at Barrett Sallee, BarrettSallee. We will wrap up week 9, and as we do every single week here on the wrap-up edition, we play Coach Speak. That's when we translate what each coach says in his post-game press conference. But let's get things started right out of the gate with what went on in Jacksonville. We'll start out from the Florida side. Obviously, you know what happened. Florida got trounced by Georgia 42-7 in a game that was not nearly as close as the score indicated. It was a hectic day. There were reports of Jim McElwain and his agent negotiating a buyout with Florida. Then there was reports during the game that they were looking to fire him with cause. And then, of course, on Sunday, it came down that McElwain is out. So we're going to approach this from several different angles. One, it's not that surprising that Jim McElwain's ego cost him his job. The rift was not news. I think there were some detailed reports of it. Thomas Goldkamp of 24/7 Sports had it on Thursday. It's obvious that Jim McElwain exerted a lot of control. He felt like he needed to. He felt like he needed to get things done quickly in order for Florida to actually be a big-time program, because there was a lot that they let slide in terms of facilities and the way they seemingly didn't dedicate themselves the way that Alabama has and other programs has. So you look at why this happened. I get it. It's a personality conflict. The death threats incident really opens up Florida to a lot, and we'll hear from Chris Doering about this a little bit later. And there were a lot of people who justifiably were really pissed off about that. That's on Jim McElwain. That's on Jim McElwain maybe letting his power or his impression of his power go to his head a little bit more, thinking that he could get away with doing something like that, and essentially throwing the fan base under the bus while also opening up the university for legal issues. So I get it. The football side is there too. The offense has been awful, and he was hired to fix the offense. And now these are his guys, and it's actually worse. And on top of that, the defense is completely un-Florida-like, and these are with guys who are his guys. Now, the 9 suspended players, I get that. To an extent, he can't control that, but that's still on his watch too. This had to be done with Jim McElwain. It just had to. It was time, because you look at what's gone on. Tennessee's obviously going to be available. Nebraska's going to be available. UCLA may be available. You're Florida. You've got the ability to go out there and get the best guy out there, no matter who he is. And right now, I think that's Matt Campbell at Iowa State. I think that'll be the guy that they start throwing money at. He's done a fantastic job in Ames. They've used a walk-on backup quarterback to beat 2 top 5 teams at the time. That's ultra impressive. And if you've seen Matt Campbell, if you've watched him throughout his career, he's like an energetic, fun Saban. All of the process stuff that Saban does and preaches, Matt Campbell is the exact same way, but he's a little more personable. And that'll fit well at Florida. And he's, like a lot of other guys, he's kept his toe in the southeastern footprint. He has a quarterback, Zeb Nolan, who probably will start for them next year, a kid out of suburban Atlanta. He went and got Jacob Park, obviously. He was their starting quarterback this year, a kid out of South Carolina who started his career at Georgia. He's made a concerted effort since he got the Iowa State job to do as much in the Southeast as he possibly could, given the fact that he was at Iowa State. So, and he'll hire a great staff. Obviously, Dan Mullen will be brought up because of Scott Strickland, the AD at Florida, and his relationship with Dan Mullen from their time at Mississippi State together. I think there will be other guys as well that get mentioned. Maybe they've poke around at Chip Kelly, although I don't think that's a good fit. You're talking about egos getting in the way and costing Jim McElwain his job. Hire Chip Kelly, see how that goes. But I think it's going to be Matt Campbell. I think it's going to be Dan Mullen. It could be somebody else. like a Jeff Brom or somebody like that, but I doubt it because I think they understand that in this particular market, they're the big dog. They can be the big dog. They need to eat, and the guy they want to go eat with is going to be Matt Campbell. So that's what I imagine will happen. For Georgia, we'll talk about the flip side of what happened in this game. You're a bully. You are as Alabama gets. You are a monster that has every reason to not only claim yourself as a national power. Georgia, and I wrote this on CBSSports.com after the game, probably should be the number one team in the country when the college football playoff rankings come out. Now, that's different from naming number one. In my ballot, I voted Alabama. But the committee kind of just views it in a bubble. They view it as strength of schedule. They view it as other things. Georgia has the best win by far, Notre Dame. And they're playing exactly like Alabama. And actually has solved more of their questions than Alabama has. So I think Georgia's been fantastic. The way Sony Michel is a big play threat now is just unbelievable. You throw in Nick Chubb and DeAndre Smith. They've been fantastic. And then Jake Fromm, don't come at me with this stuff like Jake Fromm can't beat my team if he's forced to throw. He doesn't have to throw. His team's so good. Yeah, he only completed 7 attempts, but they're so good that that's all they need him to do. And when you look at some of those attempts, they stretch the field deep consistently. Go back and watch the touchdown to Javon Wims in the Florida game. That's a pro throw. That's an NFL throw. And he does that consistently. He does that every single game. So if you're one of these people that says, well, Jake Fromm's beatable. If you make George the throw, he can't do it. Why? Give me a good reason why. At Barrett Sallee on Twitter, come at me with a legitimately good reason why Jake Fromm cannot beat you if you make him throw. Because I've watched him every single snap, and he makes every single throw imaginable. Certainly more than a lot of other SEC quarterbacks, including the one in Tuscaloosa. Mississippi State tops Texas A&M 35-14. Kevin Sumlin, welcome back to the hot seat, because this is the one game you could not afford to lose in a way in which you could not afford to lose it. At home, in embarrassing fashion, with your line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball getting worked by Mississippi State. That's the last, literally you could not draw up a worse set of scenario, or worse scenario for Kevin Sumlin. I think he's sort of on the diet version of what Jim McElwain's on right now, where I think he knows his fate, whether it comes as a decision from Scott Woodward or he finds a soft landing spot or softer landing spot. He's not going to be there, because that team flat out had no fight. Had no fight against a team that's bad on the road. That's not good. That's a reflection of Kevin Sumlin. And they've got this thing called Tell the Truth Mondays. I want him to tell the truth. He flat out poorly coached that team. He got worked by Dan Mullen. And that means he's in massive trouble. Mullen, on the other hand, is sitting extremely pretty. Bowl eligible now. Got some time to prepare for Bama, because let's be honest, next week's opponent, UMass, is not that big of a deal, although they did win on Saturday. But I've been saying it on the show for 3 weeks, Mississippi State's a legitimately good football team. I didn't think they'd win at Texas A&M. I thought it'd be close. But they're a legitimately good football team. They're fundamentally sound. They run that offense well. They're well coached defensively. And they are looking at a pretty darn impressive, I think, pool of 6 bowl game. The pool of 6 being Outback, Belk, Music City, Tax Slayer. And if you're Mississippi State, you want a Florida Bowl. That's all you want. And you're looking in line for that right now. If you can get to Tampa, if you can get to Jacksonville, in. And that's where Mississippi State's looking at right now. Because where the loss is coming from in the schedule. Alabama, okay. Anybody else? Anybody else in that schedule scare you if you're a Mississippi State fan? No, not at all. 9-3 is realistic. Tennessee and Kentucky. Tennessee loses to Kentucky 29-26, drops to 0-5 in the SEC. And I think it's abundantly clear now what the decision is. It's a matter of when, and if it hasn't happened by the time that you're listening to this podcast, it's way too late. I mean, just way too late. That team has absolutely no fight at all. They actually had a decent offensive performance against Kentucky, got wasted. They actually had a decent defensive performance against Kentucky, got wasted. They're poorly conditioned. They've given up. They've got players getting tossed. Now, Kentucky does too because of the whole mass unsportsmanlike deal. But, I mean, it is a dumpster fire of epic proportions on Rocky Top. And it should never be like this. Butch Jones deserves credit for building it back, but it takes a special kind of awful to build the best roster in the SEC East in 15 and 2016 and have Florida play in those SEC championship games. And now all those players moved on, and look what you're left with. A smoldering fire of awfulness. Meanwhile, Kentucky's bowl eligible. Good for Kentucky. I did not think they had it in them. They found a way to make it work. Steven Johnson was great. Then he went out, came back in, got the job done. Benny Snell did a good job. The defense, I thought, played okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't bad, but certainly good enough. And Kentucky, look, it's another step forward. They may not have a ton of success down the stretch. They may not. But you're bowl eligible, another step forward. For Kentucky, baby steps are fine. They're totally fine. And right now, you took another one because you got over the Tennessee hump. You got to 3-2 in the SEC, and there's still something to fight for. Ole Miss, I don't know what you're fighting for anymore. You had a 31-7 lead on Arkansas in the second quarter and lost 38-37. That was the most beautiful sloppy game of all time. From an Ole Miss perspective, this is just further proof that the team has given up. They have. There's no excuse for letting that Arkansas offense move on you. If you're a Rebel defensive player, you have to be as embarrassed as you could possibly be at that performance. That Arkansas offense has nothing. They don't block. They forget about running backs. They try ridiculous fake fumbles on 4th and 1 with a 6'7" quarterback. Like, how can you not put that game away? And Jordan Ta'amu was awesome. Jordan Wilkins was awesome. Like, you had everything working for you, and you lost it. And that is on coaching. That's on a lack of a killer instinct. And that is further proof that Matt Luke is not ready to be the head coach. Now, he could probably still be on staff, and he probably will still be on staff. But that was embarrassing. For Arkansas, you finally got something good to go in your direction. That's great. You got to win. It's your first of the SEC season, and that is at least something to hang your hat on. But does it do anything for the program? Does it do anything for Brett Bielema? Does it calm any fears that the program's heading into a ditch? No, it doesn't. It just doesn't. The program still is what it is. You still were in a dogfight with a bad Ole Miss team and had to rely on basically a complete meltdown to win a football game. Good. You feel good about it. That's great. It's nothing other than one day of fleeting fun. Because that team, that defense is horrendous. They do not have any playmakers. And offensively, I don't know what happened to Dan Enos. And I know you look at the score and say, 38-37. Arkansas's offense went up and down the field. Anybody that watched that game said that was so disjointed. It was awful. So we'll see how they rebound. Maybe November Brett shows back up. I don't know. We'll see. I doubt it, though. South Carolina and Vandy. A.J. Turner, you deserve a round of applause, sir. Will Muschamp complimented you after the game. We'll hear about that. But this running game got going in a way that I did not think was possible with all the injuries. They got the job done. And Jake Bentley is a gamer, man. He's a gamer. He gets it done. That South Carolina team, they held on late. Now, that got us a push in our picks because it was a 7-point game, which I'm not too happy about. But that South Carolina team's fun. They're now bowl eligible. They're still in the SEC East race. What happens if they beat Georgia? Not saying it's likely, but it's possible. What happens if they beat Georgia and Auburn beats Georgia? Not out of the woods yet. South Carolina's entering November with a somewhat reasonable chance to be relevant in the SEC East. That's gold. That's Will Muschamp proving he's evolved as a head coach. Good for him. Missouri 52-12 over UConn. Don't want to get too much into this because I told you that was easy money before the game. 377 for Drew Lock, just lighting it up. And that's a Missouri team that finally has its offensive sea legs. It finally figured itself out. It's working. Defensively, there's still some issues. I don't necessarily know, if you can take anything from the UConn game other than the fact that they played well defensively against a bad team, fine, whatever. That's great. But at least Barry Odom has some momentum going forward. We'll see what happens when the SEC season starts back up after 2 weeks out of conference. I think this Missouri team is still dangerous, but it absolutely has to have Drew Lock on from the get-go. If they get into a hole, they're done. We'll recap the picks really quick. I told you South Carolina and Vandy, a push. That's not great. Lost the Ole Miss game. Won Georgia. Won Missouri. Lost Mississippi State. Won Tennessee in terms of the point spread. So we're looking at 3-3-1 in the SEC picks this weekend. Not bad. Actually, it is bad compared to what I've always been doing. So I apologize. You deserve better than that, and you'll get better than that next week. If you're watching the games, it's time to start making some money. MyBookie is the industry-leading website that hooks you up with all of your betting needs. With their great odds, fast payouts, and decades of expertise, MyBookie lets you win with confidence. Your team doesn't even have to win. They just need to cover the spread. So what are you waiting for? Lay down some cash and win big today. Or if you know your team sucks, do yourself a favor and bet against them. If you're a Vol fan, that means you would have left Lexington happy because at least you would have some money to go bet on the horse races. If they lose, you'll make money. If they win, you'll still be happy. Where you're betting on is just as important as who you're betting on. That's why I encourage all of my listeners to make their way to mybookie.ag. I trust them, but you don't have to take my word for it. Check them out for yourself. They have in-game live betting and a mobile site that makes wagering on the go easier than ever. And if you'd rather just play a few hands of blackjack or roll the dice and craps, check out their online casino. It is awesome. Join now using promo code COVERED, and MyBookie will match your deposit with a bonus of up to 100%. Just use the promo code COVERED to activate this offer. That's go to MyBookie, use that promo code COVERED, and you will receive a deposit match of up to 100%. Visit mybookie.ag today. You play, you win, you get paid. Joined now by Chris Doering, former Florida receiver, current SEC network analyst, and the guy that I fall asleep to every Sunday morning at about 2 o'clock in the morning, along with Dari Noka and Gene Chizik, watching SEC Now. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, I appreciate you saying that, Barrett, man. Always great to hear that folks are tuning in and enjoying what we're doing, man. So thank you.
Yeah, y'all do. I'm not joking. Literally, I fall asleep to SEC now at 2 in the morning every Sunday morning.
In a good way, right? You fall asleep to it in a good way, right? Not like putting you to sleep. Right?
No. Like after the first re-air, like I'm done. I don't need to watch it again. But I do watch it again on Sunday mornings. But it's been a weird week for the program that you're very familiar with the Florida Gators. Obviously, by now everybody knows what's going on with Jim McElwain. I want to ask you this: as a Florida player, former player, and a guy who's tuned into that program, what happened? Like, why did this come up so quickly?
Yeah, I don't know that it came up quickly. I think there's something that's been kind of brewing beneath the surface for a while. I mean, I think there's been some points where comments were made by Coach McElwain that didn't necessarily sit well with the administration. I think there were comments that were either unaware that Coach McElwain made, or there were intentional jabs at the athletic department in terms of lack of funding with facilities, in terms of a lack of choices when teams choose their homecoming games. I mean, there's just a number of different things that I think were perceived as inappropriate at best and insubordinate at worst. And I think this latest issue with the comment about the death threats in public, having not talked to the administration at all about it, the potential ramifications that are brought up with not reporting incidents like this if players were in fact threatened, that opens up the school to a lot of liability. So I think it's something that I know for a fact didn't sit well with the president of the university. And when you start, making those folks mad that are ultimately in charge of your job, it's not going to sit well. And I think this was an opportunity where Florida could potentially get themselves out of a $12.9 million buyout by being able to fire him with cause. There will be, in my estimation, some sort of financial settlement. But that'll be something that they agree on with the intention of both sides staying out of litigation.
Yeah, I mean, it does seem like that is inevitable. I mean, his press conference, obviously, on Saturday, made it resigned to, it seemed like he knew what was coming. It didn't, at the time, he obviously didn't know when it was coming, but it did seem like he knew it was coming. How much of the issue, is just pure football related? Because, let's be honest, he did not get dealt the best hand of luck the last couple of years offensively. His offenses weren't good, but they went to Atlanta. How much of it was the fact that you watch this particular Florida team, and it's even worse than those teams, and these are his guys?
Yeah, at the same time, I think anybody that doesn't take into consideration the impact of having 9 players suspended right before the start of the season, including your best wide receiver and best running back, what it's done to the defense in terms of limiting their depth and how the defense has worn down in football games. There have been a lot of different. You think in the 2.5 years that he's been at Florida, he's had to deal with some crazy stuff, starting with his starting quarterback testing positive for performance-enhancing drugs. It's just a crazy set of circumstances, as you mentioned, not only this season but throughout his tenure in Gainesville. But at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of folks that don't feel like it's a good fit, one, to begin with, and 2, they've gotten 2 SEC title game in the first 2 years, despite an offense that is terrible, with a lot of players that were Will Muschamp's guys on the defensive side of the ball. This was a guy that was brought in to bring some excitement to the offensive side, that said he could coach up his dog to play quarterback. Well, he's had 5 different starting quarterbacks in his time in Gainesville. And with the exception of Will Greer, none of them have really ever played all that well. So I think some of the way that he came in and sold himself early on is now, ironically coming back to bite him in the backside, because just has not lived up to what the billing was at the time of sale.
Maybe he should have recruited his dog. Maybe that would have been the answer. I want to move elsewhere, away from Florida, because, obviously that's going to get covered a ton over the next week and maybe month. But I saw you and Coach Chizik on SEC Now talk about your college football playoff top 4 and really top 6. You had Georgia and Alabama both in your playoff. Break it down between those teams. What's the difference? What are the differences? What are the distinctions between the two? And how do you see those two teams if you were on the committee, how would you rank them when the standings come out on Tuesday night?
Yeah, I think Alabama's probably a little bit better still at this point in time, and that's saying a lot. I mean, given what they lost on the defensive side of the ball, we talked on Dari and Mel's show on Saturday about potential coaches of the year, and we kind of gloss over the fact that Nick Saban is just assumed to be the best coach in college football, and so he doesn't get the credit necessarily that he deserves, which is kind of ironic to say. But you look at what he had to deal with, what they lost on the defense, 7 guys from that side of the ball, and they've been able to replace those guys fairly seamlessly, and in some cases I'd say that they might even be a better defense than what they were last year. Now, at the same time, I think that Kirby Smart has done an incredible job in year 2 at Georgia, and it's not just about what he's done from an on-field standpoint. To me, it's about what he's done in changing the mentality, changing the preparation, the way that they focus. There's really no letdown from week to week. They came back from a big win on the road at Notre Dame. They came back and played one of their best games of the season against Mississippi State. I love the way that they come out and perform at a high level. And some of that has to do with the fact that they have such an experienced team, juniors and seniors across the board on the defense. But a lot of it, I think, has to do with the way that Kirby has them focused, the way that he has them buying in, and the way that this team is acclimated to the scheme so well on the defensive side in year number 2. So even though I think Alabama may be better, I would rank Georgia number 1 because I think their schedule has been tougher, and I know Alabama can't do anything about who's scheduled. But if you look at who's their best win at this point in time, Florida State now looks like a complete dud. So,
Fresno State?
Maybe Fresno State or
Colorado State.
I mean, who are those teams that you look at and say, wow, they beat an impressive team? They'll have their opportunity as the season wears on, but I think Georgia would be ranked 1 in my poll, and then 2 would be Alabama. I had Ohio State at 3, and reluctantly Wisconsin at 4. Another team that really hasn't played anybody at all. But I'd love to see Penn State maybe work their way back up in there. I have Penn State and Clemson on the fringe of my top 4 as well.
Yeah, it should be interesting because this weekend before the rankings come out, a lot of questions because we do our CBS Top 130. And I got to number 3, and I kind of got that confused dog look, like, what? What do I do? I have no idea what to do right now. It should be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, a lot will play out over the next month or so. I want to ask you about LSU because no one really truly controls their own destiny because that destiny can't be controlled. But LSU does, in fact, I think, control their own destiny because their only losses to Mississippi State in conference. They play Alabama this upcoming week. They've won 3 straight. They've changed the offense. Darius Geis looks like he's 100%. He's even, he's got more rest now. And they go into Alabama. So can this LSU offense, the way it's currently constituted, stress Alabama's defense enough to give the Tigers a chance? No chance. And no disrespect to LSU, but are you really buying into LSU full force? I mean, I think they've really improved. I mean, since that loss to Troy, they've changed some things. Most importantly, Ed Orgeron has gotten his hand out of the offense and allowed Matt Canada to do what he does. But at the end of the day, no disrespect, I can't help but think that second half against Auburn was an aberration. I still think Auburn's a better football team than LSU. It's more Auburn losing it than LSU winning it.
Exactly, and I'm critical of what they did offensively from a play calling and play design standpoint in the second half of that game. But I don't think that LSU can really stack up against Alabama. I don't think they'll be able to do much offensively. Again, they're limited in what they can do at the quarterback position because of Danny Etling's skill set. I don't think that they're going to consistently get a push. Nobody gets a push against Alabama's defense. I mean, it's going to be tough sledding for them to run the ball, and we know that they can't throw it very well. So I don't see this as being one of the more compelling Alabama-LSU games that we've seen in the last decade.
When it comes to Alabama, the last thing I want to ask you about is Jalen Hurts because, they seem to expand the playbook a little bit more against Tennessee last week. He obviously needs to stretch the field deep a little bit more. That's been a concerted effort throughout the course of the last calendar year or so. What have you seen from him, and is there potential for the same problems that bit Alabama last year, the inability to stretch the field deep to sort of creep in and cost them once things get hairy, whether that be with Auburn, the SEC championship game, or in the college football playoff?
Yeah, I think Jalen Hurts is kind of the same category as Nick Saban. Now, obviously, hadn't had the run of success that Saban has had, but I think he's overlooked a lot because of, we just assume based upon last year he was the SEC Offensive Player of the Year. But he really has had a great year this year. One interception to this point in the season. Has done a nice job of protecting the football. They don't ask him to do too much. But I think he's improved throwing the football. Now, I think he took a step back against Tennessee. I don't think his accuracy was where it had been earlier in the season, and I don't think he anticipated, throwing the football on time in that game. But I do think he has improved some. I think Brian Daboll has done a nice job of incorporating some NFL-type stuff into what was already working at Alabama under Lane Kiffin. So I do think that he has improved. I am anxious to see, is there a team that they're going to run into that can completely take away the run? Alabama's had so much success in early portions of the ball game, setting the tone with their run game. I just don't know if there's anybody out there that can force Jalen Hurts to have to beat them. And so I do have some skepticism about his ability to push the ball down the field and his accuracy on some of those deep throws. But is there a team that's even going to test him that way, the way that he was towards the latter portion of the season last year? I mean, Georgia certainly could do that, and I'm anxious to see that matchup because I do think Georgia's defense is one that we know is similarly built, that plays very well in that scheme. That may be the first time we get an opportunity to really tell what Jalen Hurts is able to do throwing the football.
Chris Doering, former Florida wide receiver, current SEC Network analyst, and all-around good guy. Thank you for hopping on, dropping a little knowledge, and shedding some light on what's going on at Florida.
Barrett, I appreciate it, man. Always great being on with you.
It's the fall, and you're obviously running around. You're going to games. You got work. You got the World Series to watch. You got a lot of stuff going on, like I do, right? Well, who's taking care of the kids? Who's taking care of the house? Who's taking you places? Who's your designated driver? All of these people deserve your love and appreciation. They're all helping you enjoy the fall time. Why don't you do something for them by sending them a beautiful bouquet from Pro Flowers? Pro Flowers has the perfect gift for anybody excited about the fall. A beautiful, long-lasting bouquet in all of the favorite fall colors. The cinnamon cider roses are a bestseller and a great option for birthdays, anniversaries, pretty much any fall occasion. Go with one of the classic bouquets, like 100 autumn roses or a dozen autumn roses. No matter what option you go with, you can't lose, because listeners to SEC Smothered and Covered get 20% off any Pro Flowers bouquet of $29 or more. Pro Flowers bouquets are guaranteed to stay fresh for at least 7 days or your money back, and you control the delivery date. Pro Flowers gives you more bloom for your buck. Big, beautiful flowers and long-lasting freshness. To get 20% off all bouquets of $29 or more, go to proflowers.com. Use the promo code SMOTHERED at checkout. That's proflowers.com. Use the promo code SMOTHERED for 20% off all bouquets of $29 or more. As we do every week here on Ruling on the Field, we play Coach Speak. That's when we take some sound from post-game press conferences and we translate it, because, quite honestly, sometimes you need it translated. So we'll start off with Kirby Smart on his team's attitude against the Gators.
I think you want controlled aggression. We talk about, being the more physical team, being toughness, but we don't want to lose our emotions, because in this game, as I remember and recall it, a lot of players make bad decisions and make dumb penalties. So we talk about having controlled aggression. And I thought we played with good discipline, but we didn't tackle the way we're supposed to. We didn't strike the way we're supposed to. We didn't get guys on the ground the way we're supposed to. And like you said, it was a result of a lot of rushing yards.
It's Kirby Smart saying, I've got Alabama. I've got Alabama. This team right now is Alabama. It's built like it. It acts like it. It approaches games like it. It's everything that Kirby Smart saw for nearly a decade in Tuscaloosa coming to fruition under his leadership in Athens, Georgia. This is what you hired him to do. If you're a Georgia fan, it's not just being 8-0 and being the SEC East frontrunner and in the playoff hunt. It's not just the excitement of being nationally relevant. It's the excitement that everything that you had planned is working. Everything that you had planned for this program under Kirby Smart is happening. Basically exactly like you envisioned when you hired him. And Kirby knows it. Kirby knows it. He told you. He knows it. He understands it. He gets exactly what's going on. Now, the question is, if they do have the ultimate success, can he sustain it like Nick Saban? That's easier said than done. Dan Mullen, a big win at Texas A&M.
Made their predictions come true. I guess we hit that. No, I mean, you know what? You got 6 wins. There's a lot of football left to be played. The great thing, we got 3 out of 4 at home down the stretch. And, you look at the environments. That's the thing about the Southeastern Conference. We need that home field environment. We got an early kick next week. Yeah, we went out and played a tough UMass team. I mean, last year was a battle. Coming down, they always play, with a little chip on their shoulder. We need that home field advantage every win. But 6 wins means to our team, our guys, hopefully at this point you should be you're rewarded that you get one more game. And that's a great reward for the team at this point. We want to hopefully get some more, but we've at least got ourselves the opportunity for one more game at the end of the season.
This is basically a diet version of Dan Mullen's cigar moment from last year's Egg Bowl. This is basically Dan Mullen saying, all you people who picked us last in the West, all you people who said we weren't going to be any good, look at where we are now. It's not even Halloween and we're bowl eligible. And none of that APR bowl eligibility like we got last year. Real bowl eligibility. And he has every right to do that. He has every right to rub it in everybody's face who doubted him. And I'm one of those people. I didn't think they'd be that good this year when we had to finalize our picks in August. I believe I had Mississippi State 6th in the SEC West, with Ole Miss being 1-7 and 7th in the West. I didn't think that this Mississippi State team, and specifically the defense, would be what it is, because quite frankly, I've never trusted Todd Grantham. I do now. Mississippi State's all right. Like they've got this thing cooking. That again, their ceiling's probably not as high as other teams. Doesn't matter. Floor is ultra high too. And for Mississippi State, that's fine. Kevin Sumlin, on the other hand, had a lot of splaining to do after that game.
I thought that we were ready to go. I thought, we started with energy. Obviously, our execution was not anywhere where it needed to be offensively. We missed the first 2 big plays, get behind them, an overthrow and a drop. After starting fast with a turnover, coming out of the gate with field position, and then give up a long drive. And so, the start of the game was fast, but we didn't continue with the way we started the game. And then, we didn't do enough offensively in the first half to really get things done and keep the game the way it needed to be from I think we had 22 plays in the first half.
Yes, sir, 33 yards.
Yeah, and so a lot of 3 and outs, a lot of things there that execution-wise left a lot to be desired.
Is Kevin Sumlin basically saying, I don't know what happened. All the demons came back. All of the problems that we've had in the past came back. Now 8-13 at home in SEC play. Everything came back to haunt Texas A&M against Mississippi State. They looked entitled. They looked like they felt like they could walk out there with that uniform on, and because they were wearing that uniform, they would win. And they got pushed around. They got manhandled up front. And that's on Kevin Sumlin, because this happens all the time. It happens all the dang time. And I think Kevin Sumlin realizes it's on me. The problem is what it is. Don't know how to fix it. Probably going to fix it somewhere else next year. Whether that's Scott Woodward's decision or Kevin Sumlin's decision, that's going to be the end result. Last up, Will Muschamp on his team's big win over Vanderbilt, and specifically the resiliency they showed, particularly on the ground.
Well, really proud of our football team. Vanderbilt certainly, especially offensively, did some really nice things. We didn't play very well defensive, but I'm going to give Vanderbilt some credit on that. We were very loose on the edges as far as the quick screens and some edge run game. It was disappointing, but you got to give them some credit too. Kyle Shermer competed extremely hard in the game, made some really nice throws, had a 50-50 ball on the touchdown, and their guys there makes a play, but I'll take Rashad 100 times and 100 times on that to go make that play. They took some other shots down the field. We defended those, but again, I thought offensively we moved the football. We stayed balanced in the game. We ran the ball extremely well, and especially there to end the game at the end with 1:18 on the clock to finish the ball game. That was really important. But that's over 200 yards rushing or right at it the last 3 SEC ball games, so that's a huge marked improvement from where we've been. And got to continue to be more efficient in the throwing game and some things. We missed a couple reads there, whether it was the receiver or Jake. I'm not really sure. We'll go back and look at it, but I thought our protection was good. But it was a good hard-fought ball game. A.J. Turner ran extremely hard in the game. Extremely proud of A.J. You see the power that he has and what he is able to run through tackles. And so, again, very proud of our team and get ready for a very good Georgia team next week.
This is Will Muschamp saying, see, I told you I learned. I told you I learned. He's managing things better now. He's managing expectations. He's managing issues that pop up along the course of the season. Will Muschamp has always been a player's coach. But I think what you realize is that he actually legitimately figured out how to blend proper management with fiery temper. And what you've got is this nice little blend of Muschamp where he's very Sabanish, but a fun, creative, exciting Saban. A Saban who doesn't go nuts in the media. Like that's what he's become. And it's working for South Carolina. He's figured it out. He's figured it out under some trying circumstances too, because they've been decimated by injuries, and yet they still consistently move the football and consistently play good enough defense. And if you can run the football and you can play good enough defense, you're going to win a hell of a lot of football games. And that's exactly what South Carolina's doing. Fantasy football fans, listen up. It's not too late to join the 450,000 people who have already downloaded Draft this season. You get to play in a real live snake draft, and you're in under 5 minutes. They last for just 1 week. You can join one right now for week 9 of the NFL season. The best part, play for cold hard cash, and get this, your chances of winning are 80% better than on the salary cap sites. All new players get a free entry into a real money draft when you make your first deposit, but you have to use the promo code SMOTHERED. That's right. Play a real money game for free just by using the promo code SMOTHERED. And it gets even better. Draft.com is so sure you'll love it. They're offering listeners a money-back guarantee of up to 100%. Just search Draft in your app store or go to Draft.com and play for free right now with promo code SMOTHERED. That'll do it for this edition of SEC Smothered and Covered here on V Sporto. Appreciate you checking out the show. Reminder, if you like the show, download, subscribe, share, and review on iTunes. Don't forget to leave a review. Let us know what you like. Let us know what you dislike about the show. Preview edition coming up on Thursday, SEC Smothered and Covered. We will make our picks then. Again, 43-19-3 now against the spread, 59-15 overall. Went 3-2-1 against the spread last weekend, and 3-3 straight up. So again, 59-15 straight up, 43-19-3 against the spread, still making you a ton of money on the year. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Until then, enjoy your week.